Why make our renewable energy agency fund a failed marketing technique by the fossil fuel industry? It doesn't make sense and we should push back against it. But the pièce de résistance this week was $600 million for a new gas-fired power station in the Hunter Valley. Who are they listening to? If not the market regulator or the Energy Security Board of the private sector. Certainly not doing it for emissions because gas is part of the problem. It's not part of the solution. Boy oh boy, was last week a hot mess. Let's unpack it. It kicked off on Monday with $2.3 billion for the two remaining oil refineries in this country. Why? Because we haven't really taken fuel security seriously. Now there's only two left. They're negotiating a sweet deal and we're going to pay them to keep open and to upgrade so we don't have to have the dirtiest fuel in the developed world. Is that a good thing? Not really. It's more fossil fuel subsidies. Are they addressing the fact that supply is still growing and really we should be lowering demand for fossil fuels by, say, switching to electric vehicles? No. What did electric vehicles get in the budget? $0. Zilch. Nothing for electric vehicles, $2.3 billion for the oil industry. What's happening overseas though is President Biden announced $174 billion to go into their electric vehicle industry. Why? Because it makes sense from a national interest and from a climate interest. Hopefully that takes hold in Australia, but this time we went the other way around. After that, the government decided to take Australia's renewable energy agency and bastardize it so that it can also fund fossil fuel related projects, in particular carbon capture and storage. And for those who aren't familiar with CCS, it's often been bundled up in what used to be clean coal. Clean coal, which we no longer talk about because it's bollocks, because you can't clean coal, you can't bury those emissions underground and do so at a commercial level. It just doesn't stack up. It's why we don't have any major commercial sites for coal and CCS in this country. CCS has been a great marketing tool for the fossil fuel industry, but it has been useless when it comes to lowering emissions in this country. And that's the real problem. Why make our renewable energy agency fund a failed marketing technique by the fossil fuel industry? It doesn't make sense and we should push back against it. But the pièce de résistance this week was $600 million for a new gas-fired power station in the Hunter Valley. Why? Not because the energy market regulator said we needed it, not because the Energy Security Board said it stacked up, not because the private sector have been demanding it. All three have advised against this pathway, and yet the government has still gone ahead. Who are they listening to? If not the market regulator or the Energy Security Board of the private sector. Certainly not doing it for emissions because gas is part of the problem. It's not part of the solution. So who are they listening to? Because the only ones who really benefit are the gas industry. We create more gas infrastructure, we demand more gas, it justifies opening up the Narrabri gas basin, and there you know it, we're locked into more gas. But here's the good news and here's the silver lining. Also last week, the International Energy Agency, based in Europe, a relatively conservative organization that models and projects where energy demand will go and is often used by fossil fuel companies to justify their investments, has now come out with a net zero pathway. It's saying if you want to keep to a safe climate, to keep global warming at 1.5 degrees, we cannot afford any new fossil fuel production going forward. No new coal mines, no new gas fields, no new oil fields. None. So, now that we have the IEA, a relatively conservative establishment constantly used by the fossil fuel industry to bolster their arguments, agreeing that we can't have any more fossil fuels, new fossil fuels in the system, we have the tools to go out there and to complain and to critique and to push back on every new fossil fuel project. Those 23 new coal mine proposals in the New South Wales? No. Those 5 big gas basins that the federal government wants to tap into? No. Oil extraction in the Great Australian Bight? No. All these opportunities should be squashed because if we want a safe climate, we can't afford any more fossil fuels. And it's your job and my job to go out there and to make sure that people know about this information, that people know about this advice, that people know that the pathway to a safe climate doesn't involve any more fossil fuels. Now, a lot of people are getting angry about these projects. I mean, it means basically that you and I are paying for these new gas power stations. We're paying for the oil refinery refurbishments. We're paying for these new coal mine proposals to proceed along their pathway to development, right? If you want to stop these things, if you want to arm yourself and your friends and your community with the information to go out there and challenge these projects, then share this video. Everything we do at the Australia Institute is to inform you, is to help change minds. Because if we want to save climate, which is what the Australian government signed up for in the Paris Agreement, then we have to go out there and we have to actually talk to it. And that's what this information is for. So it's not just a funny hot mess, it is a useful one as well. Share this video, like this video, get out there and talk to these things.